Hey there, it's Seb Frey here with another exciting episode of Seb Frey TV. But in this episode, I'm going to go retro, man. I'm going back to the old days, like last year when I used to do regular sort of real estate market update reports. And, I guess it was Monday. I was over in Pleasanton and I was at a regional meeting of Realtor Association leaderships. We had leaders from Contra Costa County, Alameda County, San Francisco, Santa Clara, San Mateo, Santa Cruz, San Benito. And we were all hanging around sort of talking about, what's going on, with the real estate market. And I was talking to a broker next to me, and I was saying, hey, how are things in Santa Clara County, a.k.a. Silicon Valley, right? And San Mateo County, of course. And she said, oh, yeah, man, it's bad, man. Things are like way down, And I was like, really down by like how much? Because I've heard this kind of thing before, like the market is down and, like it's a bloodbath out there. And, I'm a skeptic because I think that so many times, realtors will have this anecdotal experience and they'll make it into be like this is a reality for everybody when it's really just happens to be like what their experience is at that moment in time. So she told me, she said, hey, home prices are down like 10 to 12% in Santa Clara County versus a year ago. And I was like, 10 or 12%, that's like a big correction, right? So this morning I went and I pulled some of my own numbers, and let's just take a look here. So the median price in January of 2019 was $1,160,000. In January 2018, the median price was $1,170,000. So down a very small amount, down about 0.85%. And then in February of 2019, we find out that median sale price was again $1,160,000, unchanged from the month before. But check this out. In February of 2018, the median price for single-family homes in Santa Clara County was $1,381,000. That means prices in February 2019 were down 16%. That is a pretty big drop year over year, but it could be a fluctuation. Who knows? But then we see in March, the median sale price this year was $1,287,750. But in March of 2018, a year ago, the median price was $1,454,000. So that's a decrease of 11.43%. So as you can see, there actually has been a pretty healthy, or whatever you want to call it, market correction for single-family home prices in Santa Clara County. That is pretty big news, I think. Now, let's look at the sales numbers, right? So in January 2019, there were 459 single-family homes sold in Santa Clara County. A year ago, it was 479, so down 4.2%, not much of a variation. But then in February of this year, we sold 518 homes, but last year, 580 single-family homes were sold in Santa Clara County. That's a drop of 10.69% in sales volume. And then in March 2019, this last month, there were 810 units sold of single-family homes in Santa Clara County. But in March 2018, 911 single-family residents were sold. That's a drop of 11%, really 11.09%. Again, quite a big drop, both in dollar terms, median price, and in sales volume. So those are some pretty weak numbers this year in the first quarter compared to the first quarter of 2018. All right, now let's look at the number of listings, right? So a lot of people are saying like not only are the number of sales dropping, but the numbers of listings is increasing, right? So for listings, there were 740 new listings to hit the market in Santa Clara County in January of 2019. In January of 2018, it was 692 new listings, so an increase of almost 7% this year over last year in January. Then in February of this year, 947 listings. In February of 2018, 903 listings. That's an increase of almost 5%. But then in March, we see it started to moderate. There were 1,090 new listings in March of this year and 1,091 new listings in March of last year. So we do see that there has been a bit of a change in the number of listings that are coming on the market in the beginning part of the year. But by last month in March, it seems to be about what it was last year. Now let's look at the sales to list price ratio, which is, like the percentage of selling price versus the percentage of asking price. Well, it's very good news. Last year in Santa Clara County, January, February, March, the numbers were 107.8, 110.48, and 110.49, right? So that means that a year ago, home sellers were getting, pretty close to 10% over asking price on average in the first quarter of 2018 when people were going to sell their house. Now, how's it looking for 2019? Well, in 2019, we have numbers of 99%, 100, basically 101%, and again, 101%. So I think still, if you were to compare that to virtually any other market in the United States, you would see that, the market, is still pretty good in terms of sellers getting what they're asking for it. But it used to be last year, sellers would get way, way more than what they're asking for it. So there definitely has been a pretty big change in terms of how much people are getting as a percent of list price for their homes. All right, now how about days on market? So days on market, there were very few days on market in 2018. January, February, March, it was 20, 16, and 15 respectively. And in 2019, the numbers were 38, 32, and 26 days on market. Now, that's an increase on average of close to 200% longer term to get your home sold in 2019 versus 2018. Now, when you look at those numbers, basically a little bit over 30 days on market on average is not bad at all. That's not terribly horrible long time to have your house on the market, but it is, again, about twice as long as it was taking this time a year ago. So now let's just say you're looking at this video and you don't have a house in Santa Clara County, but you have a house in San Mateo County or Contra Costa County or Santa Cruz County, Monterey. It's really important to understand that the Santa Clara County is kind of like the canary in the coal mine, right? I mean, like this is the place that sort of like drives much of the economy of the surrounding areas, right? So you do want to see what's happening in Santa Clara County, because guess what? If prices drop in Santa Clara County, a lot more people are going to choose to buy in Santa Clara County than they might consider buying in Santa Cruz County, for example, because, Santa Cruz is, of course, a far better place to live overall. The drive time is longer, and, you might have friends, family, and whatnot over in Santa Clara County. So what happens in Santa Clara definitely has a big effect on the surrounding counties, sort of like the greater metro area, if you will, the entire San Francisco, Monterey Bay region. So that is what's going on in the Silicon Valley housing market, and I thought everybody should know. So what does it mean for you? If you're a buyer, just know that things are not as hot and crazy this year as they were last year, and interest rates are pretty favorable still. If you're a seller, you need to understand that the market is not anywhere near as hot for sellers this year as it was last year at this time, but it's still a pretty good market. I mean, sellers are still getting pretty close to 100% of asking price, and homes are still selling in an average of 30 days or less, and there isn't a ton of competition out there. So those are the things which are in your favor, but it's important to understand that it is fundamentally a different market this year compared to last year, and I just wanted to make sure that you heard the word about that. All right, well, that is it for this episode of Seb Frey TV. Thank you so much for watching. Do me a favor, would you share this with all your friends, family, and coworkers who are considering buying or selling a home in the Santa Clara County, Santa Cruz, Monterey area? That would be fabulous. All right, that's it for this episode of Seb Frey TV. Stand by. I'll have another episode up for you before too long.